Hola, ¿qué tal? This is Byron, the curator here on Bilingual Sounds, public radio for Southern California. Today, I'm really excited because we've been playing Charlie Houston for a while. We've been playing Pink Slip, Pink Cheetah, Pink Slip. I always get that mixed up. I always get
Like
it
a
like
tester.
shuffled around. We've been playing loops and we've been playing Slut for Excel, even though we don't say it on the air. But here today we have Charlie Houston, who just debuted her new album, "Big After I Die." How you doing, Charlie? And where are you connecting from?
I'm good. I am coming from my parents' basement in Toronto, Canada.
And it's cold, I'm sure. It's very chilly. It's chilly here
It
in LA
is
too.
really cold. We just left a polar vortex last week, so it's a bit less cold now, but it was chilly.
Wow, I can barely last in like 60-degree weather. I can't even imagine in Canada in those polar vortex
Yeah.
situations. But yeah, hey, congratulations on your debut album. I've been listening to it quite a bit, and it's fantastic. Hats off to you for creating that piece of masterpiece.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad that you like it. That is the goal.
Well, I've been hooked since your first single off the album, and it's just I've been waiting for this since last year, so it's finally come to fruition. I guess that mirrors you too. You've been waiting for it for the release. Do you feel a lot better now that's out?
I don't know, it's been I mean, as you just said, these songs have been done for quite a while now, like almost a year, and so it's cool to kind of like get to start experiencing. It's like experiencing them again when people are listening to them because I've obviously kind of grown quite I have my own relationship with them, and so it's fun to kind of get a new insight to all of them with people's feedback and listening to it and stuff. And so I'm just excited to like kind of I love the album, but it's also kind of like it's I've listened to these songs so many times.
Yeah.
And so it's fun when you finally release music to then kind of like you get to love them again because people haven't heard them before and they say things and it makes you think about them in a different way. And so um yeah, I'm just happy to have people listening to it.
And you've had quite a journey to get to this point where you are now to release your debut album with two EPs out, a whole thing when you went to study in New York and
Mhm.
everything. But I do want to kind of start at the beginning. I was reading that your dad had gifted you a guitar early on. Um, was this gift something that you wanted, or was something that it was like a guitar that was put upon you and you're like, here you go, or you had admired your dad already for being in music, for playing music?
Mhm. Um that's an interesting question that I feel like I think about a lot because technically like my dad bought me a guitar when I was like 8 or 9. And we were on the way to my friend's birthday party and we just like randomly stopped. My dad's a strange, he gives gifts at random times and um but yeah, it just kind of it was like a random thing and I don't remember asking for a guitar or being like, "Oh, I want to get into music." Um I do have like memories of when I was a kid, my neighbor would always like sit outside and play his guitar and I would just go and sit next to him and like listen. But yeah, my dad is a lawyer, technically, but um kind of grew up playing in garage bands and at prom and stuff like that. And so he really loves music. And I have three older siblings and none of them they all kind of took piano lessons sort of, but no one really took to it. And in my opinion, I think my dad was kind of like maybe the last one will like it. Um, but it's weird because I always wonder like if he hadn't have bought me that, like would I have gotten into music anyways? Like was it something that was always there or did I kind of need someone to kind of like suggest it to me? Which I think is really interesting and I have no idea.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing. But now you're like you're signed to a label, you've worked with Odessa, and you're working with this Grammy nominated producer as well. So it's quite a journey there too, to be gifted a guitar when you weren't wanting it. So after that, what led you to like, all right, let me tackle this guitar and learn it and create music?
Yeah, I don't know. It's so like weird to think about those. I feel like sometimes with memories that are that early on in my life, sometimes I feel like I make them up as to what I think they are.
Yeah, I do the same.
Um, but I mean, I know, like, I remember my dad trying to teach me how to play guitar and getting very frustrated because my hands were too small to like play a G chord and I couldn't do it, and it was annoying. And so I kind of stopped for a bit and then waited for my hand to grow and then came back to it. Um, and I started taking guitar lessons, but I don't know, I just was always like super, I never liked covering. I liked covering songs with the sole intent of stealing the chords and then writing my own song. And then in high school, I like when I discovered what production was and the process that was like the in between of like writing a song and then how it gets to the point of like someone being able to listen to it, that was really um just like super interesting to me, and I loved being able to like not just write music but record it. And then um yeah, I never really like planned on being like an artist per se. I liked writing music and I liked producing music and recording it and stuff, and then just kind of like I made a bunch of demos, and then it was just like a very like windy, not a straight path to like
Yeah. And in these early days too, were you like, when you say writing music, you're writing music with the guitar, but also writing lyrics?
mhm,
Do you remember
like
the first
terrible
song?
lyrics.
Do you remember the first song you ever wrote?
Um, oh my God, like definitely not. I feel like a lot of the time at the beginning, I never like wrote anything down, honestly, because I think I was lazy and I had more faith in myself to remember things. And so I would like sing something or like write a bit of a song and be like, oh, I'll remember it. Like it's good and I'm gonna remember. And then I just obviously would not remember it. Um, but yeah, I don't really remember like the first, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I think
Well,
that's probably a good thing.
yeah, it's probably like about love and something very
It's
small
probably
and
not about love. It's probably about like, I don't even know, like snacks or something.
snacks. Also, when you were younger, I want to know what was an album that you could not stop listening to that really kind of shaped you?
When I was younger,
Yeah, yeah. When you first started getting into bands and stuff, there an album that you're like, I'm hooked on this. I'm listening to this on repeat for months.
um, I definitely think I mean, maybe this isn't younger. Well, like kind of like 14, 15. Um, like Dominic Fike's first EP that he kind of like leaked. Um, I really loved and I listened to a lot. Um, I'm a big fan of the Black Keys. I feel like when I was younger, I was super um into them. Um, hmm. That's so hard.
It's a
I
tough one.
also feel like it's weird because recently I've been in a music rut. Like I haven't been listening to a lot of music. Um, which is sad. And I also feel like I feel like a lot of people, and when I talk to friends about music they listened to as teenagers, I'm like, you listen to such cool music and you liked all these cool bands. I feel like when I was a teenager, like I was listening to like I don't even like random like I was super into electronic music. And so I would listen to these like SoundCloud kind of like remix playlists. And I feel like only kind of after I started making music, I went back and like listened to all like the cool bands that people were listening to. I feel like that was a terrible answer, but
No, that's interesting. I mean, it just goes to, I mean, there's kind of like electronic elements into your music as well. So it
Mm.
kind of makes sense. Also, do you remember the first band you ever went to go see live as well?
It was Taylor Swift.
Uh, classic.
What was yours?
uh, the first one I remember, at least the earliest, is this band called Real Big Fish.
Okay.
You remember that? Do you have you heard of like ska music?
No.
So they're a
Well, I've heard
ska.
ska music, but not Real Big Fish.
Okay, they're really cool. I highly recommend it. They were known famously for covering "Take on Me" in a
Oh,
ska
cool.
version because that was in a movie that was produced by those South Park guys. So
No way.
I think that's what made them big. But they were totally fun, and I remember going to the show not knowing anything about like buying tickets in advance. So I just went up to the box office and the show was sold out. So I was like, wait, what? How did this many people get here before anything? They're like, oh, you're supposed to buy it online. And luckily, I was at the box office and some person overheard me and they're like, hey, my friend didn't show up. I can sell you these tickets at face value. And so that's how I got in.
Oh my God, no way. That's so funny.
Yeah. And then after that, I just bought my tickets in advance.
Yeah.
But now let's talk about Big After I Die. I really love this album. It's so fun and it's so introspective as well, especially after this long journey that you had from going to New York as the NYU and then coming back and all these existential thoughts that everybody has that you
Mhm.
went through to create this album. Um, what what do you think was the biggest challenge in creating this album and putting down these emotions into words?
Um, I feel like for a long time, I mean, after kind of, I feel like the way I have created music in the past was sort of like in a song by song basis, obviously, as everyone does. But I feel like when it came to an album, I was always kind of like, I don't think I can. The idea of trying to make something that was like they were all connected and cohesive, and I don't think an album has to be like that. And to be fair, I feel like this record, like it is cohesive, but it's also like it is singular, like it touches a lot of different things. And I always felt like kind of when we started when I started writing with the intention of being like these are going to be like album songs and I'm writing for an album, I found I kept on trying to like come up with a concept or think of what the bigger picture was and then write based on that. But then I found I was struggling because I would like start writing something that wasn't in that kind of mold I had created. And then I would be like, okay, well, I can't do this. But I didn't want to stop myself from writing because it wasn't fitting what I had come up with before. And so then I feel like I kind of got to the point where I was like, I'm just going to make a bunch of songs. And then kind of once they're done, look at them and assess what happened. And so after that, I feel like I just kind of like came to this conclusion of like, I don't know. I feel like I was processing a lot of things. I mean, in the past 2 years, just like my inability to kind of like handle change well and how much it affects me and how much I kind of like use people and places as like identifiers of who I am as opposed to like knowing who I am and then putting myself next to people or whatever. Um, because I feel like and I don't know if it started at NYU when I had this like weird edible thing that just like sparked this crazy like just complete detachment from like myself and like from the world and really questioning like just really deep like personal questions of like not like who I am but like what I am and like what everyone is and what we're all here doing and it's so weird and I feel like that just made me very like um what's the word like like vulnerable to, I don't know, just like not being able to really, just like being very anxious and being very codependent on other things because I was like scared of being alone because of these thoughts that I had when I was alone. And when I was alone, I was like, am I even real? Like, um, and so yeah, I feel like that is kind of like the beginning of where all of it came from. And then that happened to me. And then a few years later, I like, after I graduated university, I like graduated university, went through like a really big breakup, moved back with my parents, moved back home, and just all of these things that I had had as stables in my life were taken away from me. And I felt like I was kind of brought back to that NYU state of like, what am I and like, who am I? And am I ever gonna know like who I am and stuff? And so the mean like big after I die was more of just like a funny way of saying like big is just like another word for like growing or developing and death being like the end of something. So like trying to figure out who you are through change and when things end, kind of, like when you have to restart and stuff like that.
Oh, interesting. Well, I thought that the title meant just like how people get bigger after they die, literally,
That
like
was also just a
kind of
funny
like Van
aspect.
Gogh. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like Van Gogh-esque.
Mhm.
But now after this whole album was written, after you listen to it, do you think you feel like you know who you are, or is that still a bigger question in your head?
I think it's still a bigger question. I don't think I'm ever gonna like, I feel like also through writing this album and also just like the past like year or so of my life, I've realized that like, I don't know, I do think everyone has like a certain essence to them that is constant, but I think that you're always like kind of like shedding different versions of yourself and like changing and then shedding that version and then changing. And I feel like for a long time I like didn't like that because it felt uncertainty is not something that like sits well with me. But I think that's just like literally what life is like things change and like you can't control everything. And being able to like accept that lack of control, I think is really important, but something that I totally like cannot do still. Yeah.
And talking about that lack of control, or just letting things process, was there any songs on this album that almost didn't make it on the album, that you were just kind of like chipping away at it and you just couldn't get down to it until like the final try, and then you finally was like, all right, this is going on?
Yeah, two come to mind. Slept for Excel is one of them
That's my
because
favorite song.
we initially wrote it as like an acoustic ballad,
Oh, interesting.
super slow, like really emotional.
I want to hear
Um,
that version.
I can send it to you. I listened to it last night actually. It's not bad. It's just like it's weird because I listen to it now and I'm like, this isn't bad. But at the time, it was just like the lyrics are the exact same, but they're just like the production and stuff was different. And it just like, I don't know, we recorded it and we were listening to it and it just like it didn't feel right. And we like added stuff and took stuff away. And it just wasn't hitting the way that we wanted it to. And then I made a joke in the studio one time being like, I had like a Talking Heads phase kind of in the middle of making this album. And I was like, what if we just like made this a Talking Heads song or like took that? And my producer and co-writer Duncan was like, I mean, yeah, let's just try it. Like what like it was the end of the session. We were just like, let's just it was like a thought exercise.
Hmm.
And so I started playing this like bass line and it just ended up working really well
Yeah,
in
it's
like a
such a
very
fun song.
happy
Yeah.
accident.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you ended up having that thought. I love that song.
I'm glad. Yeah, it's definitely that is probably also the most shocking. Like I never would have thought I would make something like that.
Oh, really? Like a
Yeah.
Talking Hesk-esque type of song?
Yeah, or just something. Well, to be fair, I feel like more kind of like relaxed talking vocals were a bit of a theme throughout the album on a lot of the songs, and so I do think in some ways it was sort of fitting. Um, but yeah, it's definitely more just like I feel like a lot of the songs are kind of rooted in like kind of like alternative rock with like a pop spin, but that one's just kind of like funky and weird.
I love it. I loved it. I always do preface the song before I play it. Like I can't fully explicitly say Slut on Excel. So it's like, just look it up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a hard song to my dad was it to be fair, my parents were so against it being called that and now they like love it.
That's funny. That's funny. That's great though. You just like
Mhm.
flip the script on its head.
Yeah.
Um, and also when you first released the Pink Cheetah Print Slip, I love that song too. Can you give us a little background on how that came to be, or even the song title? Like it's a tongue twister for me every time I say
Yeah,
it.
it's really hard to say. I have a few times made friends. Also, if you want to do it right now, like try and say it 5 times fast.
I've tried it. It's
It's
even when
so
I
hard.
introduced it at the beginning of the video, you see I couldn't do it.
Yeah, I it's definitely a tongue twister. That song, funnily enough, was the last song that we wrote for the album.
Oh, and it's the first
Yeah.
on it.
And we wrote it in like an hour. I mean, to be fair, it's a short song, but it was like probably the fastest written and produced song on the album. Um, and I mean, when I listen to it now, I'm kind of like, ah, it makes me feel a bit like a dick. Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah, this is gonna be on YouTube. It's fine.
Yeah, I feel like I had gotten to a point where I sort of needed to write about that because it is like it's a true thing that happened. My like ex girlfriend started dating a guy after me, which is like totally fine and like I have no problem with, obviously. Like I sometimes also feel like it makes me seem like I'm like against like bisexuality too, which is like not the case at all. I'm like literally date whoever you want. It was just like it was this like very like petty, deep rooted kind of insecurity that it gave me of like, I don't know, just having someone date someone after you that you like literally can't compare yourself to at all because they're a different gender. And making me feel like, like I was lacking all of these things that like he has and could do or whatever. And um, so I feel like it when we were writing it, I was just like, I don't want to be like filtered about this. Like I just kind of want to say how I feel. Um, and the title comes from like the my ex-girlfriend, the first time she came to one of my concerts, she wore like a pink cheetah print dress. So that's like where the title is from.
Okay, you just didn't want. I mean, you. I thought the initial was like, let me challenge people to say I love this Pink Cheetah Print Slip type of song.
No, I feel like I couldn't have even come up with that. Like it was such a like specific thing.
Yeah, that's funny. But it is a challenge every time I say it on the air. But I love it nonetheless.
Great.
And it's such a great song. Also, another song that I've been playing is Loops. That one is it's hypnotic. It got a great bass line, and it's like kind of dark a little bit, like a tinge
Mhm,
of darkness in there.
totally.
Can you give me a background on this one in little tidbits?
Yeah, I love that song. It was initially called the demo that we made was initially literally just like a drum machine loop
Mm.
with that like guitar riff on top of it and it was initially called Sexy Stomach. We decided to leave that title in the past. This was a song though that honestly I feel like maybe was one of the it wasn't hard to make, but it just kind of like sat around for a while. Like the demo, it didn't have lyrics or anything for a long time. It was just like drums and bass and guitar. And I was always just like, this is so catchy and stuff, but like I could never like think or hear like where vocals would go. Um, and then another, I feel like a lot of things, I suggest a lot of things as jokes and then they end up like working.
Mhm.
Um,
That's the best.
because yeah, when we started, we were trying to write this song and I was like, what if I just did like a super like kitschy, like I hit the g ground and then we were just like, that actually kind of goes really hard. And then as soon as I did that, it kind of like everything else came pretty naturally. Um, but yeah, that song is also it's so silly because the first verse is literally about me playing baseball really drunk with friends and getting embarrassed. The whole song is kind of about like reliving secondhand or not secondhand, reliving your own kind of like most embarrassing moments and overthinking people judging you and stuff like that, kind of like on a loop in your head. Um, and the first verse is about me like falling while playing a game of baseball because I was drunk and I ran to first base and then I like ate it before I got there. And I was really embarrassed.
Looks like we're running out of time, Charlie. Well, hey, I really appreciate you sharing some insights on these songs that I've been playing on the radio station for quite a bit, and maybe the people listening today will get some laughs out of it. So thank you for
I hope
sharing
so.
everything. And
Thank
now
you
that
for
you,
playing the music. I really appreciate it.
yeah, I'm hooked. I'm definitely hooked on it. I hope you can come to LA one of these days and
I
perform.
would like to do a show in LA, like my own show.
Yeah, totally. Hell yeah. Well, congratulations again on the on your debut, Big After I Die. And before we leave, just what's coming up ahead for Charlie Houston? What are you currently working on music? What's coming down for 2025?
I mean, my hope for 2025 is like a lot of hopefully doing stuff with this album. Um, I want to do, I've really only played like headline shows kind of in Canada and in Toronto, and I would love to test it out in the States. Um, so that is slightly in the works. And then yeah, I mean, I don't really know. I'm kind of excited to start making new music. I have no idea. I haven't really started anything. Um, and I don't know like what it's gonna be. Like I really have no idea on the direction, but I will make more music.
Well, I'm excited for it already, just at the thought that you're already trying to make new music and that you're
Great.
excited for it. That makes me excited.
Great.
Well, thank you again for your time, Charlie. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and hopefully we'll catch you here in LA with some time.
Yeah, I love that.
All right, have a good day.
You too.